Power scaling son versus shipping daughter. A discussion that was a topic for heated debate for a while. People were arguing whether a chronic power scaler or a terminally obsessed shipper would be better. To me, however, the answer was entirely obvious. Power scaling son 10 times out of 10. It wasn't even a debate for me. As a power scaler myself, of course, I had to. The way people see power scaling is just people who spend their time arguing about their favorite character being better or stronger than someone else, whose entire purpose is to find out which fictional character is stronger than another. To be honest, that is a massive part of it, but there's a core difference between power scaling and shipping. Power scaling is actually necessary for narratives to work, but I'll get into that. Everyone get ready. I'm going to explain to you why you need to power scale and make you join in my chronic condition. I'm sure you can guess by now, but this video is
rated R for retarded.
Stan Lee once said, "The winner is whoever the author wants to win." Something like that. I think he's wrong. Well, not exactly. Let me explain. On a conceptual level, what Stan Lee is saying here is correct. The character that wins a fight in the end is exactly who the author will want to win. However, based on the execution, this may in fact have been the wrong choice. I will spare anyone here from any more Project Moon references, so I will just make something up in order to present an example of what I'm talking about. There will also be an accompanying diagram for this one, so those that are listening, you may want to look at it, just maybe. Anyway, now, let's say there's this guy. Let's call him John. John is the run-of-the-mill guy. He's just some average Joe. Mid-20s, pretty much in his physical prime. Now, let's say there's this guy called Five, because he's edgy and a lab experiment. And let's say Five has the ability to shoot lasers out of his hands that are powerful enough to even tear down buildings. He can use this at will, and also as a form of propulsion in order to get a speed advantage. Now, if I pit John against Five, people may call this unfair, because one is just a normal guy, and the other is a walking nuke. But let's just say, for this hypothetical, the fight starts, and John runs towards Five and punches him, knocking him out in one hit. Many people will call it nonsense. Why, though? The entire fight is fictional, and the winner is decided by the writer. But what about that made it kinda unrealistic? Why didn't Five just shoot his lasers from a distance? Or just point blank him when he was close? Why did Five just do nothing? These are all questions people will be asking if they're paying attention. And so I present to you the answer to why you're upset, despite the fact it was up to me from the beginning who wins. Suspension of disbelief. Even though it's fiction, there's a sense of understanding of how things are meant to go and work in the world of the fiction. So, when you receive contradicting information, it takes us out of the story. And that is the argument I'm here to present today. I'm saying that not power scaling in your own media that you create is a form of bad writing, as it is, simply put, a narrative inconsistency. But wait! That is not what I'm talking about! I hear you say. You point towards the Versus Battle Wiki and Death Battle. Look all the content people made about power scaling! Referring to this pointless slop! To an extent, as a chronic power scaler, I'm inclined to agree with you, partially. The way Death Battle measures people's power with TNT and explosive power doesn't sit right with me. The Versus Battle Wiki is full of logical inconsistencies. However, those two aren't as insidious as first appears. The whole point of power scaling is just hyper-analyzing the media in order to determine who will win in a hypothetical battle, taking everything into account in order to determine an outcome. So let me return to John versus Five again and analyze it through the lens of the Versus Battle Wiki. John is an average human, which will put him in the 10A athlete level at best, whilst 5 would be around 8B multi-city block level. The answer of who would win in this perspective should be obvious. 5 has him outclassed in pretty much every category. However, I'm actually going to say something that might sound counterintuitive to what I've been saying this entire video. There is still a logical way that John can actually win this fight without it making it look that 5 is a bumbling, incompetent clown who should have never gotten powers. I can introduce an outside factor. Another reason why John can beat 5. Let's say John has this device called the True Mirror, and anything reflected in it is reflected back with the exact same force. Now we can understand a better reason for John to win without it making it look like 5 is completely incompetent. Him not knowing about the mirror led to his downfall directly. We can actually make it more convincing to say why 5 can lose. I forgot to mention this information about 5, but he isn't athletically built. He has superpowers and such, but his body from the experiments have been destroyed. His base speed and without his powers isn't really that fast, and in close combat, in terms of a physical fight, he's probably gonna lose. So, combined with John's mirror and his superior close combat prowess, there's actually even more convincing argument to be made that 5 loses to John, despite me breaking the doubt in your mind that a regular person can be a superpowered individual. Let me explain again what I'm trying to say in this video. I'm saying that narratively wise, anyone can beat anyone if written correctly. However, the bigger the gap in power, the better writing you're going to need to explain why the weaker one wins. The reason why I'm insistent that power scaling matters isn't because the person we expect to win should always win, but if we create a character who's meant to be strong, or in order for them to still feel strong, we have to beat them in a way that makes sense. The best example is Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, the strongest sorcerer of today. What was the main strategy to beat him? Well, the first time they tried to seal him behind a barrier whilst they did this stuff. Didn't work. The next time was in the prison realm, where they trapped him after using a distraction. He was so strong compared to everyone else. It was a 1 against 1 against the enemy. He would have beaten everyone there. However, the narrative did everything in the enemy's favor in order to make him lose. The reason why I'm such a chronic power scaler is because I'm such a chronic lorehead. I like collecting all the information and small bits of a story that they have to offer. And because of that, sure, power is in fact related to that. Who beats who is an age-old question that everyone would like to see answered. After all, fans of the media just like interactions between characters they haven't seen interact before. Hell, even if it wasn't a death battle, but rather death debates where we got smart characters to argue and somebody can format it well, I'm sure people will watch that too. But there is a few things I should address about the whole power scaling thing. First of all, if people do talk about stuff like Altiversal and stuff like that, I also too look at them sideways, because generally what the hell are you talking about? It's just larpage at this point. The multiverse is the biggest thing I'm willing to accept. Anything beyond that is just creating bullshit. I know a lot of power scalers like to do this thing called bloodlusting, when a character has their personality turned off and is basically going into full kill mode. I feel like doing that is kind of boring and reductive, because if you wanted to compare stats, you could have just done that without having to simulate the battle at all. The joys of the battle is that the characters have their own personality. Who's to say that even in my own example, John, upon learning the shield works, gets super cocky and then lets his guard down, whilst 5 has been using his powers for years and is fully aware of all of his limitations. The joy of power scaling and who will win comes with the entire niche details with it. The people trying to remove that from power scaling and who would win debates definitely ruin the space in my opinion. But in any case, don't let anyone just tell you power scaling is bad. After all, it's just a scale. It's a measuring tool. You can't get angry at a scale for displaying your weight. It's up to you to get to the gym. Well, that's pretty much it from me. A way shorter video, just about something basic like power scaling. And what about shipping? I hear you ask? True Goyen behavior.